This place is starting to look a little bit more like a warehouse. This weekend was quite brutal. My buddy Rob came over. I'll tell you what, I don't know what I'd do without that guy. We spent the weekend setting up all that shelving back there. Still not done yet. Still got quite a bit to do, of course, but that was the worst part. I think we had to, some of this we had to put together in a way different from what's intended to. It's supposed to be mounted to a wall, so we had to bolt it back to back, make sure we did it right so that there's no tipping danger, things like that. Still got some supports to put on it to tie it up at the top, and so the racks will support each other. But for the most part, I want to say the worst part's over, but I know there's probably worse parts coming, but that was pretty bad, and it was quite brutal, to be honest. And what happened yesterday, Monday, was I reached my limit. So let's sit down and talk about that for a minute. All right, so yesterday I was sitting here working, and yesterday was quite stressful, actually. I was physically tired and beat from the weekend. We spent all day Saturday and Sunday. We went wide open. Just two of us set up all that shelving back there and put it together. We had to figure out how it assembled. We had to, like I said, make a couple trips to Lowe's to get bolts and washers and just all the hardware we needed to make sure that stuff was together and solid, and we're not going to have any issues as far as strength of the shelves go. So that was just time consuming, and it was physically demanding. Saturday the air conditioning wasn't working so good. They had to get someone in here to fix it, so we sweat more than we normally would. And then by Sunday night I was just beat. Came in here early yesterday morning, Monday, started working, and I ran into a problem. I know I talk about problems a lot. It seems like I probably tell you guys about all the problems you have when you set up a business. And I want you to understand that I mentioned this a few videos ago, that everything I have to do I view as a problem. If I have to mail the rent check, well, that's a problem I have to solve. I have to go write a check and get it in the mailbox. So I look at everything as a problem. But I ran into a serious problem yesterday morning. The platform I had planned to use for my accounting, and really a lot of my business, when you have pieces of software that talk to each other, typically you do that through an API, and their API was limited to the number of transactions per minute it could handle, and I was unable to even synchronize my inventory list, and the inventory list isn't that big yet. So I did a little research, found posts on their forums where their customers had been complaining about this for more than 10 years. And it's really kind of mind-blowing at this stage of technology and everything, especially how big their platform is. I mean, this was really pretty incredible platform. They had all the pieces, and that's probably the most disappointing things, is they had all these different little pieces to run a business. And I planned on building the business on that platform for the most part. I was going to use another type of web hosting other than theirs, but everything else was pretty much going to go through their platform. They had service tickets for customer service, chat for your website, notes. I use the note taking app on my iPad, which I'll now have to transfer out to something else that's independent. The accounting, inventory, it was really going to work the way I wanted it to, until I ran into this limitation with API calls. And I was really disappointed when I talked to them, and I talked about this before with customer service with one of the other pieces of software that I was working with, and that was anything other than the answer, we're going to fix this, and you're right, this is ridiculous, was not an acceptable answer. And so I'm migrating away from that platform. Fortunately, I'm not too far into where it's going to be difficult to do. It's just going to be a little extra time consuming. Probably honestly a few days of time to bring all the accounting back up to date in the new system that I'm planning to use, and we'll talk about that later on once I get everything running and I feel confident that I can say it does what it's supposed to do and I can recommend it. But that was frustrating. So as a result of that, spending yesterday morning very frustrated, and stressed. Yesterday afternoon I hit my limit finally, and I'd said before, that I'd never really found where my limit was. And when I worked, it was in 2005. I mentioned the health study that I did a few weeks ago in a video and a couple weeks ago. And that summer became crunch time. We had to really get the work done. And from June, the first week of June until the first week of October of 2005, I worked at least 100 hours a week. The only week I didn't work 100 hours was a week in August when I was on vacation, and I worked 55 hours from the beach that week. And the top week I worked was 129 hours that summer. And there's only 168 hours in 7 days. 7 by 24 is 168, and I worked 129 of those hours. This past month, yesterday made 28 days that I had the keys to this office, exactly 4 weeks. So 40 hours a week times 4 is 160 hours. I asked Tammy if she thought I probably worked an average of 14 hours a day, and she said it's probably more like 16 or more every day. I had not taken any time off, no days off, no rest. You could probably go back and watch the videos and watch my face get more pale. I've not been out in the sun at all. And the 14 hours a day, she said it's probably a lot more than that. So I went with 14 hours a day times 28 days. It's like 392 hours as opposed to 160. So somewhere around that 400 hour mark is my limit right now. Now, in 2005, I was 35 years old. You can flip those digits. I'm 53 now. So that makes it a little bit of a difference. But somewhere around that 400 hours in a month is my limit, and I'm hoping not to have to do that again. But it was crunch time. We had to get things done. And what happened yesterday, I was sitting here and working, and all of a sudden I was having difficulty focusing on my monitor. And I thought I had looked at my phone or something bright. It had this little zigzag line where I was trying to see, and I couldn't focus. And it was like a little zigzag rainbow. And I was like, wow, and it just wouldn't go away. And I realized that this was not normal. So I Googled something like zigzag rainbow vision or something. And this thing come up, and it was called if I get this right, a scintillating scotoma. And if I said that wrong, somebody can correct me. But it is basically the type of aura that people get when they have a migraine, for people who get that visual aura. And there's other causes for it, and there's these diseases like diabetes and stroke, things like that cause it. And one of the big causes is stress, of course. But this thing, when I read about it, it said that it's typically in both eyes, and I thought it was only one eye. So I covered my right eye, and sure enough, it was in my left eye too. It was in the same spot, and it was just like this little arc that was right where I was looking. And read about it a little bit, texted Tammy, told her this was going on, this is what it is. And after 15-20 minutes, it just kind of started moving up to the top right and faded away and went away. It was the weirdest thing. I had no migraine, no headache or anything like that. But what I read was that that this happens, and these are the possible causes. And I decided that I'd had enough and I needed to go home and rest. I could not think. I absolutely hit a brick wall. Could not think, could not focus, and so I packed it up, went home, came back today, and I realized how far out of it I was because I left the lights on in the office. I did set the alarm, but I left the lights on, and I lost my earbuds somewhere. I don't know where those went to. And there was something else I had put in my backpack bag. I can't remember what it was this morning, but something else I grabbed off my desk and stuck in my backpack bag. There was no reason for me to put that in there. It was really bizarre that I was just kind of that far out of it yesterday. So I went home. I slept about 2 hours in the afternoon, got up, sat down last night, and Tammy and I watched TV for 3 hours. It's the first time I've watched, other than baseball game, it's the first time I've watched television in 3 years. Baseball game, and I've watched UFC fights a couple times. Other than that, I have not watched TV, movies, or anything. We went to see Top Gun last spring, but I haven't watched television in 3 years probably. And we started watching. Rob's been telling me to watch Ted Lasso on Apple TV, and yeah, I have to say it's pretty funny. We laughed so hard last night, which was a good feeling, to break away and get rid of the stress. And this was that show. If you haven't seen it, what's unique about the show is it's like a guy that is the epitome of being himself, and it's really, really good. It's hilarious, really, and especially if you've ever been to England, if you've ever been across the pond to the UK, and they use different words for things, like, a cookie's a biscuit and so forth. And it is, if you've ever experienced that, it's even funnier. We've been over there a couple of times, and but it's a really good show. I'm really interested to see where it goes in some ways. But it is one of the funniest things I've watched for a while. Anyway, so yesterday I want to talk about giving up. And yesterday, when before I had my little episode and decided to pack it in, I was thinking about, wow, what's it take? This is bad. I was like, this is just another roadblock, something else that's going to cost me some time, something else that's going to cost me extra time to work a couple of longer days, like I needed that. And at what point do you throw in the towel and walk away from it? And it's not in my vocabulary to give up. And I think a lot of people probably would have given up by now. I mean, a lot of people probably would have given up when that storm hit back in September. 5 months ago today, on September 28th, that storm hit. And just giving up is not in our vocabulary. And one of the things that Rob and I talked about a lot is what it takes to do this and be successful. And we think, there's a TED Talk out there. If you haven't watched TED Talks, I'd encourage you to go watch some of them. There's a TED Talk about grit and what it takes to really succeed, and the things that people have in common who succeed. And this lady talks about grit. And the title of the video is called Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance. And I really would encourage you to go watch that video because I think grit is what it takes. To not give up, to just keep going. You never stop going. I've said that before. And I'll tell you more about this accounting situation and why I ran into this problem a little bit later on. Like I said, I have to make sure everything works good with the new system I've selected, and get it set up and everything. Working on that today. I actually think things might work out better for me. We'll see where this goes, but I see some features and things that are a little easier to work with. As far as overall better, I don't know. I think it would have been nice to have all the different tools in one place with chat on the website and things that make tools work easier. But on the other hand, I have to have the core functionality before I can have bells and whistles. If I don't have core functionality from the business and operation standpoint that manage the sales, the operations, the accounting, the inventory, the workflow, if I don't have those things, it's going to be tough to have those bells and whistles that mean anything. That was something that I struggled with. I have struggled with in the past, was people wanting bells and whistles and not wanting to deal with the foundations and the core of a company, which is the accounting and inventory systems. Usually accounting, purchasing, inventory, payroll. Without those being in place and solid, the company's not going to survive long term. So getting those things, making sure they're solid, and then figuring out the bells and whistles later is the right approach to go after that. So again, go watch the TED Talk video. The link's in the video description down below. If you don't see that, just search TED Talk Grit video and it'll come right up. It's a great video, and you'll be glad to know, like I said, that I got a good night's sleep last night. I slept 2 hours yesterday afternoon. I slept about probably about 7 or 8 hours last night. Slept really well. Got up this morning and had to have a little bit of caffeine to bring me out of the sleep. But I'm feeling good. I've already done a ton of work this morning already, and have rolling forward. Hopefully we're going to launch. I'm shooting for a few days from now. We'll see how this goes. We have product on order, should be coming in this week, and I'll be keeping you up to date on how these things are coming along. And hopefully we'll get off the ground. Like I said, at launch we might be on a smaller scale, but we'll see how this comes together, and we're getting excited. I don't look excited because I'm tired, but we're excited and ready to do this, and ready to get back to serving you guys.